Hey, comic book fans, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. And fans, you're back with me, Mike Spider Slayer, getting ready to bring you Countdown episode number 97. That's right, fans, the countdown is officially back. Last week we had a special edition episode with just Convergence books. But now that Convergence is in full swing, we can incorporate all the comics together to bring you the best countdown possible, at least in my opinion anyway. And this week we have 14 comics, so that's right. We start all the way from the worst spot, going from number 14 all the way back to my favorite comic of the week, and that is number 1. Now, again, guys, this is, of course, all my opinion. You can take it or leave it, or if you're having fun just watching, enjoy it. Get some lunch, get some dinner whenever you decide to watch this, and have a drink at the same time. So, here we go, guys. We're going to start off with number 14. And number 14 this week starts off with a Convergence book. Now, Convergence for me, it's tough because I don't have that history. So there's a lot of stuff that I don't connect to with Convergence, and it's hard for me to get into these books. So I'm judging these books based off of if it's getting me into a character from the past. So this week, we started off with Convergence number 14, and it's Shadow of the Bat issue number 1. Guys, I didn't like this book. I thought that I would. I loved the cover of it. Really enjoyed it. I liked the artwork inside of the book. I thought it was pretty nice. But when I was reading this book, I was absolutely, and this could be just me, but I just found myself bored to death. Maybe it was because I couldn't make a connection to these characters from the past, and it was just completely boring. And I honestly, I don't do this with many books, but when I found a book that was not interesting, I couldn't finish it. And as cool as it looked at times, I just was just like, wow, what am I reading here? I have no idea who these characters are. Why am I going to read it? I just found myself that it was a pointless book. Like probably to most of you, Convergence might be because it's a filler type of event, but I just did not find myself caring to want to read the story whatsoever. So I gave this one a 2 out of 5. Artwork was really good, but when I came to the story, it just did not hold me whatsoever. All right, so that was number 14, pretty much a throwaway book. Number 13, though, for me was Convergence issue number 2, the main event. I don't seem to be enjoying Convergence, the event, as much as I like the actual, I guess, spin-off books. I find the spin-off books a little bit more interesting, dealing with the past characters of DC Comics. And when it comes to the Convergence book, I thought this would deal with maybe, me and my friend Jay on Comic Frontline were talking about this, about maybe the new 52 characters more than the Earth 2 characters. For me, I feel like I'm reading a continuation of Earth 2 World's End because it has the characters that were all in it, and we just seen an event with them. So we got Grayson in here. We get to see Superman. We get to see who is it? Thomas Wayne. We get to see everyone that you saw in Earth 2 World's End. Artwork in this book is beautiful, though. I mean, looking at the book visually, it was really well done, and I loved looking at it. But story-wise, I just didn't find it compelling at all. I just found it just our heroes going out here and being like, oh, we're going to stop Telos and we're going to stop him, so I'm going to break free of his chains, and Telos continues to continue what's going on with the worlds and how they should be forced to fight. You know, Alan Scott winds up going deep into the planet's core and tries to stop Telos. And basically what happens throughout the issue is Telos goes and he hides beneath the ground and he finds them not worthy. And our heroes are scrounged together to try to stop him. So they got to find that his presence is like beneath the ground or whatnot. And they got to go beneath the ground and they got to try to stop him. If you want to see any kind of heartfelt story here, it has to do with Grayson and his child, where they had to get shipped off into space before Earth blew up or whatnot. And then what happens is the ship blew up, so he has nothing left. He has no son or daughter, child. He has no Barbara Gordon. She died. And then you get to see kind of a, I guess, a cool moment here between Thomas Wayne and Grace, and how they're working together to go to this different Gotham, and they're going to try to do whatever it is that they have to do. And you wind up seeing Bruce and Thomas meet up with each other, you know, father son, where you wouldn't see that in a normal world, but in this world, you actually see that here. But overall, besides those moments in here, I didn't find it anything just worth appealing. There's no, I just don't find it exciting. I'm not like compelled to read the next issue. I'm not like, oh my god, this is the greatest event. Again, it reminds me too much of an Earth Two Worlds End continuation, and I wanted to see different characters in this book. I want to see maybe our new 52 heroes in this book, different set of heroes dealing with the of the events of Convergence. So I get World's End led into this, but for me, it's just, it was okay. So I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, and that was number 13 this week. Next, we go on to number 12. And number 12 was Grim Tales of Terror, issue number 10. Love the cover here. It's really interesting. Dead hot chick in a coffin. And you're kind of wondering, well, what's going on with this particular issue? And in this issue, it starts off really cool. I was like, wow, this is a pretty cool issue. Because you get to see Death in here, who is like the head salesman. And she winds up... she winds up trying to persuade this couple not to get married on this cruise ship, because she says that there's bad things that happen here. There's murders, there's ghosts, there's all kinds of things. And the couple's like, "Are you kidding me? You actually work here, and you're trying to deter me from having my wedding here?" So she winds up telling this story about this couple that wound up getting married, and you know, it was about this guy who was a player in the past, and he found the right woman, and he got married on the ship, and they're having this party, and they get to decide to play this like hide and seek type of game, and everyone's kind of hiding around, and you wind up seeing the groom hide in this boiler room, and he winds up meeting this hot, gorgeous bombshell, and he's just like, oh my god, I can't believe it. And he's like, you know, she's like, oh, give in to your temptation, and you think that what's going to happen is he's going to give in to the blonde bombshell, but as the bride was, you know, looking for the groom throughout the issue, you wind up finding out that, you know, she finds the room that he's hiding in, and the female sits there and says, go hide in here, and what happens is he never gets let out of the place that he was supposed to hide in, and he winds up dying in there, and he winds up becoming this, and I was just like, whoa, that's crazy. But the cliffhanger at the end of the book just didn't do it for me, because it's like you wind up seeing the blonde bombshell in here, and she's this like this zombie slash, I'm trying to think of the other type of name for it, but she scares the woman to death, and then, you know, and that's how she dies. So it wasn't like a crazy, like, oh my god, that was a great ending type of story for me. I felt there was a lot of other books. I thought the actual story was really good, and then I was looking for that big, like, oh my god moment at the end, and it kind of missed it for me this time around. But this book is usually a solid book. Really enjoyed it, like the artwork in here, like the stories it tells. But again, you're not going to want to, I think, read every single one of these unless you're a big horror fan and if one seems interesting to you. So after this one, I gave this one a 3 1/4 out of 5 stars. All right, so moving on now, we're going on to, we're at 14, 13, 12. We're going on to number 11, and number 11 was Convergence, Superman, Man of Steel, issue number 1. Here you get to see Steel, his kids, or his uncle, or his nephew, niece, whatever it is, and you get to see Parasite. So again, sorry if I miss things in these Convergence reviews, because I really have very little back knowledge of pre-New 52 stuff. So here we get to see Steel. And I thought this story was okay, you know, but the artwork just seemed too, I don't know, it just seemed too happy for me. I was just like, well, what's going on? It's Steel, and it just seemed, at times, it seemed a little blurry and lacked a little bit of detail in here. It seemed a little generic at times, which I'm trying to, you know, give it a pass on that, because this takes place like during Zero Year. So, and this is when Superman wasn't around. So this is how the comics kind of were back in that timeline. So I wonder if they were trying to hit on that timeline. So you get to see him fight around these different types of armors and whatnot. And kind of the stupidest thing in this book that I felt was that they were trying to help their cat Allie, and they inject them with like the dome's radiation thing or whatever it was, and it's like, well, what do you expect that's going to happen to this cat if they inject them with the dome stuff, and he winds up protecting them from the robots or whatever it was. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, what's going on here? So then you wind up finding out that the dome winds up going down, and of course, we get to see Steel. He's, trying to save the day, and there's all kinds of things going on. And then we wind up seeing, what's his name in here? Bibbo, who was the huge fan of Superman back in the day. And the kids go to help him, and they're in their own armor that their uncle made for them. And I'm kind of like, okay, that's kind of weak right there. And then you get that whole thing with the dome coming down a year later, and then you wind up seeing Parasite get his powers back. He winds up absorbing one of the kids' essence or whatnot, and basically what happens towards the end of this book is we wind up seeing that Steel has to go against Gen 13. And it was cool to see Gen 13 in here, but they kind of trash Steel. They throw him with fire and lightning and throw him to the ground, and he winds up getting severely injured. He gets severely burned. It breaks his back. All kinds of things going on, and it's to continue. It was okay. I was like, all right, this is fun, I guess. I don't know. Brought back some of the things. I just didn't really find a real strong purpose here. It didn't make me want to really like the character at all. It's kind of assuming that you know everything about Steel and his kids or his niece and nephew, and I was just like, okay, it's all right. I like the ones that gave more of a backstory and try to catch you up on who a character was and what happened during the events, and I thought this one kind of missed it for me. But it was okay. Again, another 3.25 star book. It was just average. All right, so now we go on to top 10, and our number 10 book is Nova issue number 29. I like Nova. It was a good book. I like the artwork in it here. I love seeing, Nova in the beginning of this issue. He winds up going and he winds up giving Richard Rider's helmet back to his parents, and his parents never had closure on kind of what happened to him. And I thought that was a really touching moment there when he stayed there trying to console the parents, trying to be there for them. And I thought it was there. I thought it hit there on those emotional beats. But then after that, we wind up seeing Nova go in. It's summertime. He doesn't have to report to school now. So something tells me he's going to be in space for a while because he wants to go find his father. And the thing is in here is we still know that Nova is not perfect. He starts creating these demands. He's going to live on nowhere for a while, while he's out in space. And he starts making these demands on to find this Kree ship and to find this particular person. He disguises himself. So people are automatically, it's hitting a target on their back. And on Nova's back as well, and they realize there's this mistake. But when you get to the end of this issue, for me, they came across this gigantic Kree master. His name is Warbinger, and I just thought that he was kind of generic, and the book got a little bit generic at the end on the battle, on who they're going to have to fight at the end of the issue. I was like, okay, well, I guess it's okay. So, again, it was just above average for me. It was a fun read. I liked the beginning better than the end. I'm kind of interested to see what's going to happen on when is Sam Alexander going to find his father, and how he's going to find him, and what he has to go through. But I feel like him finding his father has been this whole series so far, and I just kind of want him to kind of find him already. I know that's the basis off of this comic book, but I kind of looking for a little bit something more at this time. But same thing, I enjoyed it, but didn't blow my mind. Again, I'm going to give this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. All right, so we're going to go on to number 9. Number 9 was Convergence Green Arrow, issue number 1 of 2. And the one thing that this book has going for it is its artwork. I really like the artwork in this book. Christy Marks was the writer. Rags Morales is the actual penciler in here. And I thought, again, the artwork hit it for me. I like those emotional expressions on people's faces in here. It was very dark, kind of reminds you of what Arrow really is, or Green Arrow really is. There were some dark alley moments in here. But basically what this issue really represented here was, you know, Oliver Queen being the hero that he is in the city, because there's no other superpowers, and he's trying to save people from being drunk and being suicidal because certain people are stuck in the dome and they can't see their families that are out of the city, and so he's been trying to hold that in check. And there's a lot of gangs going on, causing violence and trying to, you know, cause problems, and they think they realize they think they know better, or what's better for the city and whatnot. We get introduced into this issue. We get to see Connor Hawk, I think is his name, and that is Oliver Queen's son. And so for me, I learned something here. I didn't know that pre-New 52 Ollie Queen had a son. And it sums it up for you nicely at the end of the issue. And again, we get to see you know, these pure people trying to keep the city at peace and whatnot. But besides Oliver Queen really finding his son here, I kind of felt that this issue was just okay for me. It was just nothing boring, nothing blew my mind. It was Oliver Queen just kind of blowing off his responsibility again when he found out it was his son. He was kind of like, I know nothing about being a father. He's like, so why is that going to change now? And his son is trying to convince him of staying around, be the father, don't make the same mistake twice. He was trying to do the right thing. So I was kind of like, all right, it's okay. Nothing, again, blew me out of the mind. 3.5 out of 5 stars. Really almost a take it or leave it type of issue again. You know, this is books that if you're interested in reading, want a decent story for maybe what was your favorite character before the New 52 came around, you might want to read it. Okay, so 3.5 out of 5 stars. So going to number 8. Number 8 was Miss Marvel, issue number 14. I liked Miss Marvel. I thought it was a good book. I thought it was really interesting. It had a lot of good moments in here because you actually see Kamala Khan actually falling in love with which is someone from her race, from her culture, and the guy is an Inhuman as well. And we get to see, you know, her best friend Bruno interact with her brother, which are some good moments in here as well about how Bruno will never marry her because they're not from the same culture. And there were some, again, good moments there. And you really got to see some, you know, Kamala really falling for this guy. And there was a moment in here, it almost reminded me of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. When Skye and her, if you saw that episode just recently, I think 2 weeks ago, where Skye and her guide wind up looking over a cliff, and they're seeing the, I guess, the scenery, the mountains, and everything like this. And this picture kind of reminded me of that. And this guy explaining him to her, all his powers and what he can and can't do. So it's funny how this reminded me of that episode of S.H.I.E.L.D., of that exact scene in the TV show. I was like, wow, and his powers are kind of electrical and everything. So I was like, I wonder if they got that moment from there. I'm not sure, but it reminded me of it tremendously. And it looks like they're about to share this kiss. And really, you think that things could be, you know, too good to be true for Carmela here. And we wind up finding out that he takes her for a ride at the end of the issue and brings her to other Inhumans, but it's kind of forced because she doesn't believe that he's there for like good intentions, you know, because he wanted her to skip school, and that's not the right thing to do, you know. So she gets held in this particular room or captive or whatever it is. And then by the time you get to the end of the issue, you wind up finding out that there's these guys that are involved. So these guys are Inhumans, but it looks like they're on the bad side of End. They're not on like Medusa's end, because Kamala thought, oh, am I with Medusa? Why? They've never kept me in a cage before. So this guy, this potential boyfriend, looks like that he's on the wrong side of things. I thought it was good. I liked the issue. I thought it was fun. But for some reason, I was like, oh, I wanted more, I guess, villains in play, like better known villains in play here. And this looks like this is the beginning of the next story arc. This looks like this is the next villains, and I wanted something more from this when it ended. I kind of didn't want to hit on some B, D, F rated characters when I got to this cliffhanger. I was like, oh, okay. And I almost kind of predicted that this guy was almost too good to be true, so it was kind of predictable for me. So it was good, but again, it was just like, okay, very predictable. What can you expect right now from Marvel, being that Secret Wars is happening and their titles are coming to a close very soon, and certain story arcs are coming to a close. So it's hard to really get into the stories this time of year when it comes to DC and Marvel right now, with everything just about to change over. So, but this was a fun read. I liked it. It was a 3 3/4 stars for me. I enjoyed it. All right, so going on now, we go on to, I think we're at number 8. Double check here. I'm sorry, we're on number 7. That was number 8. So we're on number 7. And number 7, this is the lowest that it's ever been for me. And I hate saying this, but it was Superior Iron Man, issue number 7. Very fitting, a 7th issue in the 7th spot. I expected something a little bit different out of this issue. The one thing that threw me for a loop here is that we've gotten the artwork that we loved throughout this series so far, throughout the first half of this book. And when you got to the end of it, it changed. And it changed a great deal for me. There was a lot of shadowing in here. There was just a lot of, what seemed darkness. There wasn't as detailed art in here. It threw me for a loop. I didn't kind of like those outlines that were going on, the white outlines that were there. So this is what kind of threw me for a loop. Crazy, weird facial expressions. And I was kind of like, what's going on here? Why did the artwork change? And I didn't like that. I always love issues that continue to have the same artist. And one of the things that's been going so good for Superior Iron Man is the artist has been the same. And I just love the artwork. It's been so visually amazing. And right here we find out throughout this issue that Iron Man is doing battle against an artificial intelligence. So you find out why his mind was missing like 8 years ago or whatever it is, because at that point in time he created himself in an armor, an artificial intelligence, to replace him. To replace himself in case things went wrong. And this is one of those times where things seem to have gone wrong. And throughout the issue, you wind up seeing the armor, or his artificial intelligence, trying to take him back to the Tony Stark that he was, I guess, 8 years ago, I guess. And but then you wind up seeing his symbiote armor chasing after himself. And I thought at this point the issue was really cool. It had really good action sequences. Loved how certain armors weren't designed for flight, and it looks like that the armor was destroyed, the Superior Iron Man armor. And I was like, oh, well, there it is. There's the end of the Superior Iron Man armor. But then once again, I feel like now the book is kind of taking it a little bit too far, because right when you see the artificial intelligence going to win, you wind up seeing Tony Stark again has this other contingency, and he outplays the artificial intelligence. And I felt at times this book got confusing with the two Tonys talking to each other, and I'm like, oh, they're going back and forth and whatnot. The artificial intelligence winds up getting defeated because there was the symbiotic armor that still somehow was attached to him. And again, Tony is in control of things. So we'll see where it goes from here. I liked the issue. I thought it was good. However, for me, it didn't hit on the levels that it's hit in the past that made it that #1 book each and every week. but it was still a solid read, and I give it a 3 3/4 stars. But again, part of that has to do with that artwork there. That was the problem for me. All right, going on to number 6. And number 6 was Convergence Suicide Squad, issue number 1. This book was pretty solid. I enjoyed it. You know, if you're a fan of this type of style of artwork, this you know, it kind of has to do with this darker tones, and for this type of book, if you're a fan of that, I think you'll like it. Me, it's not my favorite artwork, and I thought this is what held the book down from, I guess, a top spot, because especially here at the end of the issue, you wind up seeing, like, that's Lex Luthor right there. Does that look like Lex Luthor to you? I don't know, but not to me. So I found that a little weird there. So the artwork for me, well, for the most part, was okay. But you do get to see old school Amanda Waller in this issue. You wind up seeing, I think it was Carol Ferris in this issue at one point. I'm trying to find the page in here so I can show you guys. Hopefully I can find it. I don't know if I can. Maybe I can't. Yeah, there it is. There's Carol Ferris in there. So yeah, she's in there. Again, that's Amanda Waller, so that's the way she looked. So again, those facial expressions are kind of weird, so that's what kind of held me out of it. But you get to see all kinds of, like, wheeling and dealing and all kinds of stuff going on while the dome was down for the entire year. No one has superpowers. But what happens is, as the issue continues, you wind up seeing that Alan Scott from this timeline has created this new OA, and you have the Suicide Squad being formed by Amanda Waller and Barbara Gordon in the issue, and I thought it was cool, or Oracle, if you want to say, and I thought that was really neat to see that, you know, because you wind up seeing these heroes again get together. So yeah, you see this OA, Alan Scott, what he created, and it looks like he's going to fight them all. And again, you get to see everyone being gathered together. So you get to see Bane and Black Manta and Deathstroke involved in there. Plus, you have these other guys in there from the original Suicide Squad, and Cyborg Superman being recruited in the issue as well. And then you have Barbara Gordon, Oracle, who's secretly involving a Lex Luthor from another timeline, which I thought was really neat. And he's wearing a ring, which I think is a Legion ring. I'm not sure, or if it was a Yellow Lantern ring, but it was kind of hard to tell based off of what I saw. But I thought it was a cool issue. I thought it was fun. I like seeing the gathering of the team. I think that's what I like the most of it, and how they were formed and what they're going to do now to stop Alan Scott. And Alan Scott's this all-powerful Green Lantern, so it's kind of just like your normal ragtag guys just going against this powerful person here. So this was fun. I liked it. I gave this one 4 stars, 4 out of 5 stars. All right, so going forward now, we go on to number 5, and the top 5 book for me, and you guys might be a little bit going, Aquaman. Yeah, Aquaman. Aquaman was pretty cool to me. I didn't think I was going to like this book. First off, based off of the stupid cover art, I'm like, what is going on with Aquaman's hair there? And then the interior art was kind of just like, I didn't feel that the colors were deep enough. I thought it was a little bit just not detailed here based off of the characters, you know, or whatnot. But I did think it was a good story because Aquaman could not get into the water. First of all, Mera's nowhere around. He can't get to her. He can't get to the water because the water was poisoned based off of enemies that he fought. So he can't get in the water. He tried to do everything that he can to stay one with the ocean. He lost his telepathy. He can't talk to the animals or whatnot. He tried hanging out in an aquarium. That didn't work out. They wanted him out. They wanted him exiled. And he goes to Catamus, and or was it Catamus or Star Labs? One of the two. One of those two people, Star Labs. And that's what made him his harpoon, hand. So they made him that, and they kept him. He had one person that helped him out, and they kept him facilitated, kept talking to him, making sure everything was okay. But basically, the only way he could stay hydrated was just going into the shower. I mean, that was it. And you got to see the trials and the tribulations of Aquaman and what he went through while this dome was down. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that it broke the character down a lot, and it wasn't just cheesy story. I really enjoyed it. And by the time you got to the end of it, you get to see his powers return when the dome goes down, and it's all coming to him all at once. And then he has to go and he has to fight this crazy guy by the name of, I think it was Death Blow or something like that. Something weird like that, this guy here. So I was like, okay, well, the first part of the story seems pretty good for me. I don't know if I'm going to like the second part of the story, but I like seeing the trials and the tribulations of Aquaman on what he went through here. So I gave this one a 4 out of 5. Really interesting read for me. All right, so going on to number 4, and number 4 was Convergence Superboy, issue number 1. I read quite a bit of Superman back in the early 90s. I think a lot of us did with the death of Superman, and then you get the whole Supermen, where you get to see, you know, Cyborg Superman, Superboy, and you get to see, who was the other Supermen that were in there? I'm trying to remember. I can't quite remember offhand, but there was the 4 Superman. And in this issue, we get to see, of course, yes, the dome is down. We all know that the dome is down. We know that by now. We know the speech. And you get to see Connor here trying to get his powers back. But he just can't. And we get to see that they're doing all these experiments on him, and he's doing everything to you know, be the Superman that he's supposed to be in replace of Superman's death. And what happens throughout the issue, we get to see that same thing, like in Aquaman, he's going through those trials and tribulations, how he was just fitting into the role, and then this whole dome went up, and he just doesn't know how to deal with it. And he's being told by civilians, he's like, oh, I remember when Superman did this, and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, oh, okay. And then the next thing you find out is the dome goes down, and yes, he gets his powers back. And, you know, it was cool to see his powers come back. He's like, whoa, that feels funny. And then, you know, he starts using his X-ray vision, and then right away he starts to fly. So right away he's like, oh, hey, looks what's back in here. But as soon as he gets his powers back, no faster do you get the other enemies from the other cities going in and trying to, I guess, stop him or whatnot. So you wind up seeing Wally, and you wind up seeing Red Robin in here. And they're doing battle against each other here too. So by the time we find out all the information, what's going on, and that those two are defeated, yes, we get another Superman that's involved here. I'm not sure which Superman this is, which timeline he comes from. I'm not that knowledgeable of the character, but in the end, I thought it was pretty neat because he challenges him, and he goes, "Are you Superman?" And he goes, "Or just a child pretending to the mantle." So I thought that was a pretty neat ending there. So yeah, fun stuff there. I like this book. This one was fun for me, and so I give this one a 4 out of 5 for me too. All right. Just the 2 Superman are driving me crazy. I can't remember them off of my head. All right, so top three. Number 3 is going to Green Lantern Parallax Convergence. If there was anything in the pre-New 52 that I read, it was this. I have read the entire Green Lantern series from pre-New 52 during that 0-year run there, where Hal Jordan became evil, he became Parallax, and Kyle Rayner took over. I'm familiar with his old girlfriend, how his girlfriend got shoved in the refrigerator. Like, I knew that whole thing. So for once in this whole Convergence event, I was like, wow, I could relate to, you know, all these DC fans excited about, you know, seeing their old characters back and old stories back. You know, so I finally I was like, this is going to be good for me. I know that. And so through the beginning of this issue, I was absolutely outstanding. I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to get #1 book for the week for me for sure, because I'm so excited. And we get to see Kyle Rayner back. He's not a White Lantern. I really enjoyed that. He visits his Hal Jordan in jail. Because Hal Jordan, since the dome is up, of course, they don't have their powers. And he's reflecting on himself, on what he did. as Parallax. And you got the backstory, and that's what I liked about this. You got the backstory of what happened with Hal Jordan, how he killed the Guardians, how Coast City wound up getting destroyed, and he wound up becoming this evil entity known as Parallax, and how Kyle Rayner became. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. And and Kyle doesn't give up on him. He's like, well, that was you when you were Parallax, but now you're okay. And I was like, oh wow, that's really great. And you feel the pity for Hal Jordan. You feel for the guy. And then and then you get to see Kyle reflect back on his old girlfriend Alex. And I thought it was pretty neat that they hit on that, because in that series that was kind of a memorable scene. I mean, she's chopped up body parts in a freaking shoved in a refrigerator. Like, how gruesome of a death can you have there? I thought that was crazy. But then you wind up seeing the dome go down. And for me, this book went down just a little bit because I don't like the characters of Electropolis. I was like, what's going on here? But you get to see Kyle get his powers back, and I was excited there. You get to see Parallax come back, and I was like, yes, now we're going to see this freaking all-out battle. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen the way I wanted it to. It was kind of a letdown. You get to see Parallax. He's going to these other cities. He sees the other cities in this planet, but then Kyle is just like, Hal, this is not yours. And before they even threw a punch at each other, I wish they had some kind of a fight. And Hal's just like, Kyle? And he just comes right to it. And then from that point on, it dropped. It was like, hey, we're going to fight these people, this Fern chick. And I'm like, Princess Fern, oh yay. But the artwork was great. I love looking at it. And I was like, oh yeah, it's a worthless battle. I don't care. I didn't care at the end. All I cared was the freaking Parallax want to fry their ass. That's all I wanted. And then it's to be concluded in the next issue. So for me, the Hal story, Kyle story, how their interactions were before the powers came back were great. Would have loved to seen a battle. Didn't see it there. Seen a battle against people I really didn't care about. So that's what dropped the book down almost like a full point for me. I gave this one a 4.25 out of 5 stars. I swear to God, if that Fern chick wasn't in there, I would love this so much better. So 4.25 out of 5 stars. All right, going on to number 2. And number 2 for me this week was Black Vortex Chapter 12, Legendary Star-Lord, issue 11. I like this issue. I really did, because what this issue promoted was, it was all about, before it was out being self-absorbent, being greedy, having all the power in the world, to a point of not doing that, what promotes what's opposite of the Black Vortex, is promoting all that. Again, artwork in here is really good. After 2 issues of kind of filler issues with Cyclops and Captain Marvel, it continued nicely here with this event, and it has a great opening page with Kitty Pryde. Love Paco Medina's art. He did the Nova book for a long time, and we get to see cool battles in here, good narration. I thought that was well done throughout this particular issue. And again, we don't see that that greediness, and we get to see the main character here. She's the one that's trying to capture that vortex mirror, and she gives them clue on what to do and what not to do, and she wants that mirror, but they realize that they need the mirror in order to win. And we get to see Jean. She was willing to sacrifice herself at first, but Peter pulls her away and says, no way, you've been that cosmic entity. We don't want you to go through that. And then we find out, seeing that, Peter, he was going to do it, but then he winds up seeing what the mirror was going to offer him, which was power, money, girls, and he couldn't do that to Kitty Pryde because then Kitty would walk away. So he walked away from that. He couldn't do it. So what happens is, by the time you wind up getting to the end of the issue and a whole dialogue of, what the Vortex has done and what it's going to do into the future, we wind up seeing that Kitty Pryde wants nothing to do. She hates space. She hates Cosmos. She hates all that stuff. So she's like, well, why don't I just do it? So by the time you wind up getting to the end of this issue, you wind up seeing that she's going to sacrifice herself to save the galaxy here. And I really like that. I really like this issue for, what Kitty did, laid it all on the line for, the team, and I think that's very fitting of her character. She's that moral compass of the team, tries to set everybody right. And I like that here. And I do like Peter and Kitty's relationship. I think they've bonded quite a bit throughout this series and through this event. And this event's done it for me. I liked it. It's been kind of a nice, easy flowing event. I think maybe it should be 2 issues less with those 2 filler issues that we had. I think maybe it should be like 10, not 12. But nevertheless, it's been a solid event for me. So I'm going to give this one 4.25 out of 5 stars. All right, last but not least, the #1 book of the week for me was Chrononauts, issue #1. Really like this book. I'm going to do an in-depth review on this. And this was issue #2. Really liked what this book was about. First off, if you missed the first issue, it's about these 2 guys that created this time travel device that you can go back in time. But the thing is that people watch it live. They watch it on TV. So they know everything that's going on. And you're just like, wow, that's crazy. So by the time you wind up getting to the end of this issue, or through the beginning of this issue, you wind up finding out that his friend, was it Danny Riley, he winds up going back into time because his friend went through the time stream first, and he winds up getting stuck there. Only 40 minutes has passed, but they realize that they got to go in and they got to go after him. So what happens here is they wind up coming. You see at first that he winds up getting stabbed in the leg with an arrow or whatnot, and you think, oh, it's back in 1504, and it's this classic age or whatever it is. And then he winds up going, and he winds up you see cars and helicopters and all kinds of crazy shit, and you're like, what? This is 1504, right? I'm sitting there reading that, and I'm thinking that. Sean Murphy's art is good. It fits the book here. And you wind up finding out that he winds up finding his brother, and his brother is in charge of this place. And timeline is a lot different here. His brother's been stuck 4 years in here. And you're wondering, well, why did he get all this tech? And he's been waiting for him all this time. That's what he's been. He's been waiting for his buddy all this time, trying to get him to join him to, travel through time streams. And that's where he's gotten all this tech. And in this timeline, he's a king here. And he's, defended their country and whatnot. And I thought that was so neat. And his name is Corbin, by the way. The main guy there, his name is Corbin. So Corbin and Riley, Corbin takes Riley and he goes to all these different timelines. He goes to 3000 BC. He goes to 1220. He has multiple girlfriends, multiple businesses. I mean, he's just creating all kinds of things. He got multiple houses. I mean, it's just insane what this guy's been doing. The guy's been hitting it up with so many chicks. He's got a freaking list of them. And it's just so funny. So he's trying to convince Riley there to sit there and join him. And after some convincing, they're like, yeah, hell yeah. And you're like, fuck yeah, let's go, man. And they're starting to go out on the timelines doing all these things. He tells them to turn off the tracking device that's on there, so now they can't visually see them anymore, and they can't find them. So they go into the dinosaur age. They wind up going to all these different ages. When the first mammal walks on Earth, they're taking photos with it. I mean, it's crazy. But by the time you wind up getting to the end of this, we wind up finding out that the girls are getting mad. They found out that the batteries are trackable without the GPS system, and they're going to send in the people at the end of them. And I was like, man, that's great shit right there. That's a good story. I like this book. Good thing, too, Mark Millar's writing it, and it wasn't delayed this second issue. So I thought it was a lot of fun. I think you guys should check this one out. For me, this just set apart everything else this week. Set away from all the repetitious Convergence stuff. Set apart the Marvel stories that don't really count right now. And this kind of set its league in its own league for me. And so I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. I think Mark Millar and Sean Murphy are a good team for this book. As long as it doesn't get its delays, I think it's going to be a solid series, and I can't complain out of this one, man. This is one you guys should check out. Fun book, got some light moments in there, and it'll be interesting to see how these guys handle this timeline and how much is going to change along the way. So, guys, there is the countdown for the week. Hopefully you enjoyed it. You've seen the worst, you've seen the best, and you saw everything else in between. So, fans, as always, thank you for watching Comic Book Corner 2.0, and this has been the countdown, episode number 97. Take care, guys.